and there were big logs. They were wet. There was no kindling. There was no fire starter. There was no lighter fluid. They were there. And I said to Kevin Tan, let's start a fire. And I grabbed a match. And I took the match and I threw it into the wood that's all wet. And he looked and I looked and I moved the energy. And all of a sudden, the whole thing burst into flames.
This is the Kevin Trudeau Show.
I am exposing the corruption in government and in major multinational corporations. We're telling you the things that they don't want you to know that will make your life better.
The bottom line is, throughout history, we know, it's not disputed, that there are certain people with abilities. In America, there was a TV series, and maybe you can find out the name of this, Trey. I think it was on either the Discovery Channel, I think it was the Discovery Channel or the Learning Channel, called Superhuman. I think that was the name of the TV series. This TV series went around the world and took people. One of the people that were in this clip, or on this show, was my Shifu, my master, my teacher, Shi Yanming, who was the Shaolin monk from the Shaolin Temple in China. Grandmaster Tai, the great Qi master, one of the greatest Qi masters in history, who was also one of my closest friends and trainer. But Qi Yanming was on here showing what could be done with Qi energy, and it's superhuman. It defies science. Example, there's a machine that measures the force of a punch. If you take a heavyweight boxer, that boxer, a heavyweight, 240 pounds, throws a punch, it registers the force. Shi Yanming is a very small man, probably about 160 pounds, not 240, 160. And rather than give a full punch in the demonstration, he gave a 1-inch punch, which was made famous by Bruce Lee, which was actually taught to Bruce Lee by Bruce Lee's Wing Chun master, Ip Man. So Shi Yanming is 1 inch away and punches. It has more force than the heavyweight full punch. They said if you got hit with that punch in the chest, it could collapse your chest. It'd be similar to getting hit by a car going 35 miles an hour. Superhuman. Another example was Shi Yanming would take a spear, and they did this on the show. This is not a magic trick or anything. And the spear was sharp. You could take the spear and just tap it into some paper, and it would cut the paper. I mean, it was sharp. They put it into the small of his throat. And two men would push the spear, and it would not penetrate his skin. Instead, the spear would bend and break. That's physically impossible. But he explained that the Qi energy below the skin was coming out and stopping it. It's an invisible energy force. There's a show on TV called The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. They keep drilling into this mesa where the radar says there's some anomaly. They can't describe it. And they keep hitting this invisible something that drill bits with unbelievable amounts of pressure can't penetrate, but there's nothing there except an invisible force. Think about this. In the series Superhuman, was that the name of this? Did you find that? Was that the name of the show?
Real Superhumans.
Real Superhumans?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think this is another one. I think it's called Superhuman. But anyway, on this, there's also a man who blindfolds himself. And again, this is not a magic trick. He's blindfolded, and he has a sword in the sheath. And he's standing there. There's a gun, a rifle with it's a BB gun. And they shoot the BB gun, which is like shooting a bullet. They shoot the BB gun, and he takes out his sword and he cuts the BB in half. And he's blindfolded. Now, if he's not blindfolded, it's impossible because you can't see the BB. It's going too fast. It's a rifle. Bam. The way they show it is with high-speed cameras. The man is picking up the force field in the same way that an eagle is flying and knows where the fish is and goes down and can time the exact moment to catch the fish. They call it, there it is, the example here. Yeah, look at this, look at this. Bam. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's 100% possible. The point is there are people all over the world that's documented that have unique abilities. You have seen, or you haven't seen. I was at my house. Kevin Tan was staying at my house. Amir was at my house. Bernard was there. David Kruger, Danielle. We had a whole host of people living in my house for a while as we were working on some projects. Dedicated volunteers to the Kevin Trudeau Fan Club, the Global Information Network, and Kevin Tan was there. He's a super guy, fantastic guy from Australia. And we were outside chatting. It had rained earlier. So the grass was wet, and I had a fire pit. And the logs in the fire pit, the wood in the fire pit, were all wet. It had rained. They were completely wet. And they were big logs. They were wet. There was no kindling. There was no fire starter. There was no lighter fluid. They were there. And I said to Kevin Tan, let's start a fire. And I grabbed a match. And I took the match and I threw it into the wood that's all wet. And he looked and I looked and I moved the energy. And all of a sudden, the whole thing burst into flames. And Kevin went running into David Kruger and he goes, there was like no fire, and then the whole thing was on fire. Like, how did that happen? Now, I don't talk about that. He's talking about it now. I guess I am. Which is kind of silly. But the reason is, that wasn't to do a demonstration or a show. I wanted a warm fire. I wanted to sit outside. It was a cold night. And I was smoking a cigar, and I wanted the fire. It wasn't to show off. I didn't even really was thinking that he was there and would witness it and notice it, but he did. It was so obvious. You can move energy. It's something that happens. So at the end of the day, this is something that every single person can release abilities that are innate to all humans. Some have more abilities than others, or can take the abilities they have to a greater extent than others. But every single person can get better, and all of you can get much, much better. Now, the reason why I say this is one of the things that will help you manifest your goals, dreams, and desires and virtually change the hardware, which is the brain. Look, 99% of you were not born into rich families. You don't have the hardware that the super wealthy have. You're going to have to improve the hardware, but you can. Doesn't mean you're going to have the brain of Elon Musk or Richard Branson or the late Stephen Jobs or any of the billionaires that you know. You might not get to that level, but you can dramatically improve from where you are now. That means you can dramatically improve your financial condition, the relationships, your health, your addictive nature, your emotional stability. It can all be improved, but it starts with improving the brain. One of the things that will improve the brain and change the brain is neuroplastic, which means it can mold and change very quickly, is associating with other brains that are very high vibration. This is why being in the presence of a high vibration person, whether it's a spiritual saint, a guru, or even focusing on Jesus, if that is your savior, or focusing on a guru, or looking at the picture of a guru, or focusing on a saint, or if you're a Christian, Mother Mary, or bowing down and focusing on Allah or Muhammad. When you focus on someone, or look at their picture, or read their words, or hear their voice, the vibration goes into your field. If you're physically in their presence, it's even more powerful. When you're in the presence of a perfected master, you're getting bombarded with photons at the highest level. And it has a positive effect on improving your hardware, the brain, your brain, so that you can manifest more, do more, have more. If you're in the presence of people that aren't that way, but want to be, that are striving, that's second best. If you look at very successful people, many of them didn't hang around billionaires when they first started, but their friends were all going for it as well. So they hung around with like-minded, motivated, inspired, positive, driven people. They didn't hang around with losers. They hang around with winners. Even they were all starting off and all broke, they were still a group of winners hanging around. That's significant because when you take one broadcast, which is your brain, and put it next to another brain that's broadcasting similar frequency, drive, motivation, inspiration, enthusiasm, positivity, each brain, the power increases. And it actually affects the hippocampus size. It gets bigger, activates the pineal gland, so you're activating into your third eye opens up. Powerful things happen. Your brainwave stops broadcasting on the slave wave, which is beta, or the poverty wave, which is beta, and starts broadcasting on either alpha or the theta, and maybe even get into the super genius of gamma by associating with and being in the same physical presence of winners. Hi, I'm Kevin Trudeau. This is everything they don't want you to know about to improve the quality of your life. Broadcasting every Monday and Wednesday, 2 days a week now. Monday and Wednesday at 1 o'clock Chicago time. Make sure you tune in and subscribe to the channel and share these shows with everyone you know.